Alright, so the element we're going to talk about today is color. And what we're going to start with is our primary colors. So there are 3 primary colors. We'll start out with red, and we're going to use our pencil tool, not the highlight tool right now. We'll use the pencil tool, and I like, just for ease, we're going to use the largest setting. So I'm going to make a little circle right up here. This will be the top of our color wheel. We're going to create a color wheel today. So I'm starting with my first primary color of red. I'm going to switch my pencil tool to yellow. I'm going to bring it down here because we're eventually going to kind of make like a triangle shape. So I'm going to make another circle of yellow here. And my last primary color, we're going to go with blue here. Oh, that was a little too big. We're going to go with blue here. And now we've got our primary colors. A primary color is a color that can't be made by combining any other colors. These colors come straight out of nature. That's how we get these pigments or colors in our paints. And there's no way to combine any other color to create the true red, yellow, and blue. And what we're doing next is secondary. We'll call those our 2s. So what we're going to do for the secondary colors is actually we're going to do some mixing of color. So we're going to click on our highlighter, and I'm going to go with yellow, and I'm going to start with my yellow, and I'm going to go right between my yellow and red. So what we're doing here is we're going to try and make orange by combining red and yellow. So I'm going to go back and forth on my highlighter with red and yellow. You're just making and building up a bunch of layers. And depending on what color you start with in this highlighter, you might get a slightly different orange. That's just how it is in Notability. So what we're going to do next is we're going to combine blue and yellow. Sorry, let me undo those. And what we're going to get when we combine blue and yellow is green. So we're going to keep doing a couple layers of that. What you want to do when you make these layers is not lift your finger up while you're making one complete layer. That way it doesn't kind of combine like that. You want to have one solid layer as you create each layer. Alright, so now we've got our green, and the last color we're going to make is violet. So I'm going to take my blue again, create a circle, and I'm going to overlap red because those are the 2 colors that are next to violet, because that's what you combine to create it. So you're going to go back and forth, keep mixing the violet, or the red and blue to create violet. Alright, then we've got ourselves a nice little violet color. What we're going to do is label each one of these colors so that we know them by name. Alright, so since we have our primary colors and considered as like our 1s because they're our beginning colors, you can't make them with anything else, we're going to label those with 1s. And if you have trouble kind of thinking about how secondary colors work, if you combine a 1, so the red, plus another 1 of yellow, So 1 plus 1 equals 2. So we get a secondary color for orange. So I'm going to take all of those away. So all of our secondary colors are considered 2s. So the way that you have your color wheel set up, you should be able to go, if you go in clockwise direction, you should be going in rainbow order. See how it the color wheel relates to the rainbow order, as we kind of call it. And when you have all of that set up, you should also notice that your primary colors are evenly spaced, so you can make a triangle. And then your secondary colors are also evenly spaced, so you can make another triangle. So you'll often see the color wheel set up like this. And the last thing, we're actually going to put something right here in the middle. If you take every color in your highlighter so you can layer them, I'm going to just use the secondary color that's already in Notability. So I'm going through red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. What we kind of get is a neutral color, and for the violet I use this darker purple. And of course, so this is kind of like a grayish color. Neutrals can come out more like brown, kind of like gray. They might change, but if you combine every color of the color wheel, you will get a neutral. We can talk about this a little bit later when we go more in depth about color, but you can also combine straight across the color wheel. So if you mix red and green together, you would get a neutral. If you mix blue and orange, you would get a neutral. And if you mixed violet and yellow, you would get a neutral. Notice how that crosses the center. That's how you would get that neutral color if you combine what we call complementary colors. So that'll be our next little section here. We're going to go down to just make a little header. And we're going to take our pencil tool. So red's complement or opposite is green. Just like if we scroll back up to the color wheel, you can see that directly across the color wheel from red, is our green. And then if we go back up and we look at the opposite or complement to blue, go straight across the color wheel, it is orange. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. Got our blue, and the opposite is orange. And our last complement to yellow, if we scroll back up, straight across the color wheel is violet. Okay. All right. Our last section for color today is we're going to talk a little bit about value. So just like we talked about value the other day with using a pencil with lighter and darker values, what you can do with color is the same. It doesn't only pertain to plain pencil drawings. So you can pick whatever color you'd like. I'm just going to pick red. You can really choose any of these colors. What we're going to do is start in the middle with your pencil, just so you can get it nice and bold and strong. You don't have to worry about the layers. But then for the rest of the values, we're going to use our highlighter. So I'm going to add 2 circles on the right side and 2 circles on the left side. Oops. What I'm going to do on the left side is I'm going to take my white and I'm going to layer on top of both of my circles. I'm going to take my red, I'm going to add a little bit to this one. So now that we can see we've got a light tint. And then over here, we're going to start making a shade. Or rather, shades. It's plural. So I'm going to go back to my highlighter. I've got my red here. I'm going to add a couple layers of red. I'm going to take my black. You make a shade by adding black. we want this one to be darker, so we're going to add another layer of black to that one. And I'm going to go back over each one of these with a little bit of red to bring out the slightly more reddish color back to it. And for good measure, I'm going to add black to this last one on the far right. And now you can see you've actually got a value scale with color. And remember, you can use whatever color you want. Kind of play around with layering in this value scale. Remember, this one, you're going to add layers of white. And then on the right side, you're going to add layers of black and red. All right, so that is it for color. So we talked about the primary colors and secondary colors, how you create the secondary colors, and how you create a neutral color. And then we talk about complementary colors, which are just opposites or just directly across the color wheel. And the last thing with color is the value of a color. So we've got lighter values and darker values, or tints and shades.